All right. Welcome, everyone, to the, March 11th, 2024 meeting of the Planning and Development Committee. Thank you all for being with us this evening. I believe we have a couple of members online as well. So, Sarah, would you give a roll call, please?
Of course. Councilmember Reed. I think he's virtual.
I see him there.
Okay, he's virtual. Councilmember Harakaris.
Here.
Councilmember Revelle.
Here.
Councilmember Burns.
Here.
Councilmember Wynn.
Here.
Councilmember Kelly. I think
Here.
also, thank you. And Councilmember Nusma.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Great. Thank you very much. And according to our agenda, the first item is approval of the minutes of our February 12th, 2024 meeting. Would someone move approval?
I'll move approval of minutes of the Planning and Development Committee for February 12th, 2024.
Second.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? And I guess with remote members, we need to do a roll call.
With remote, we have to do a roll call, yes. Councilmember Reed. Councilmember Harakaris.
Aye.
Councilmember Revelle.
Aye.
Councilmember Burns.
Aye.
Councilmember Wynn. Councilmember Kelly.
Aye.
And Councilmember Nusma.
Aye.
I didn't hear from Councilmember Reed. I know he's online. He's got his hand raised.
5, 6,
Can we take that as yes?
Yeah, we can move on.
I wasn't
Okay.
able to unmute myself. Aye.
Okay.
Okay,
We-
great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So now we have public comment, and this is before we get to the official presentations about the items on the agenda. Okay. So Sean O'Keefe, did you want to give public comment? And public comment is 2 minutes per speaker.
Hi. I'm a Evanston resident. I live about a mile from the Grant Street properties, and I'm just here in support of the micro homes. I think that's a good thing for Evanston, and we bought our home a couple years ago, and we just barely got in, and I don't think we would be able to afford something like that even today. And we have friends that would like to live in this neighborhood and don't want a huge house. And I think that that's something that is not obtainable to them today. And yeah, so I'm in support of that.
Oh, great. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks.
And then Claire is
She's out there.
okay. Then thanks.
Good evening. My name is Claire Hevel. I also live in the neighborhood with the Grant Street development for the microhomes, and I just wanted to say I also support it. I think it would be great for our neighborhood, for our community. I think it would allow people who are younger, trying to buy their first home, to be able to enter into a great neighborhood. And I think it would add a lot of variety to the neighborhood, and just in support of it, and think it's a great thing.
Great.
So,
Thank you.
Thank you for listening.
And did we have any online signups?
We don't have anyone signed up online.
Right. Okay. Well, then we'll take P1 and P2 together because they're both dealing with the same proposal. So would someone move those so we can begin discussion, and then we'll hear the presentations.
Madam Chair, I'll move item P1, which is Ordinance 19024, approving the text amendment, amending regulations for efficiency homes, and also item P2, which is Ordinance 18024, approving a special use with zoning relief for an efficiency home development at 1915 through 17 Grant Street in the R3 two-family residential district.
Second. Thank you. And then, did you want to give public comment?
I signed up on the sign-up sheet, but I think it was for
So you want public comment? Public comment for planning and development? Yeah.
My name is Jill Zorden Molds, and I'm speaking in support of the Efficiency Homes Project. By way of background, I have 20 years of experience working within urban design and development and an advanced degree in urban planning and design. And previously, from 2019 to 2022, I served first on the Evanston Zoning Board of Appeals. I'm not a natural public speaker. And then later on the Land Use Commission. While perhaps unusual to some, efficiency homes represent a thoughtful and sustainable approach to urban development. By providing support for such houses, we not only address the increasing demand for attainable housing, but also contribute to more diverse and inclusive neighborhoods. These smaller dwellings can cater to a variety of demographics, including young professionals, empty nesters, and individuals simply whose preference is for efficient and manageable living spaces. On a personal level, my family has always opted for smaller homes, from my husband and I living in 600 square feet in the Netherlands to upgrading to just shy of 800 square feet in Sweden once we had 2 children. This is not unusual, undesirable, or a burden on our neighborhoods. Rather, it was a reasonable and responsible consumption within sustainable living practices. And while mine was a normal experience in Europe, I appreciate that's not the normal American situation. But as our exploding consumption of housing carries greater environmental impacts, it's natural and just to question if bigger is better. In summary, Evanston has never shied away from making decisions resisted by some in support of what's a forward-looking decision. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you very much. Oh. Okay. Pam Rosenbush, were you planning to give public comment for this, for planning and development? No. Or Cindy Beebe, I know. Juan Rodriguez? Oops, never mind, that's leaf blower. Never mind. That's leaf blower as well. John Brazil? Do you want to give public comment? Or Tom Mulroney? Tom? Okay, great.
Hello.
Hi.
My name is John Brazil. I live in the 7th Ward, and I am here to support the development at 1917, 1915 Grant Street. An architect, I feel this is a development that pushes the city forward in a positive way for home ownership, people who don't want as big a home as most homes in that part of Evanston, but want to be in that area. I think it would be a positive thing for Evanston. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Peter Harras? And Tom Mulroney or Peter. Oop, here we go. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Tom Mulcrone. Thanks for the opportunity to speak today. I'm here in support of the micro home development over on Grant for a number of different reasons. I think accessibility is a big issue in terms of both economic accessibility and then also these are small units that are designed, I think, for anybody of any ability, of any age. That's, I think, a housing niche that is important to fill. I think the environmental concerns that were brought up by other speakers are also very significant. People who make the conscious choice to downsize with concerns for the environment are limited in options in this wonderful community of Evanston. And I do think that this would be a meaningful opportunity for people to make their home exactly what they want it to be, right where they want it to be. So for those reasons, I think that this is a very important option to consider, and it's one that I feel strongly in favor of. Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you. All right. Oh, that's about, that's something else. Okay, how about, yeah. Jill Zordan? Oh, you did already, got it. Thank you, sorry.
Didn't see where you were.
Morgan Kelly?
Hi, thank you. So I'm Morgan. I live just down the street from the Pocket neighborhood in the 7th Ward, and a lot of discussion that I've been a part of over the last couple weeks. I would say everyone's on board with that type of development, in favor of, I think, supporting a lot of what's already been said, but we really want to implore that what I've been taught whenever I've built something, measure twice, cut once. And that's really how we want to approach this. We want to, ask that you take that same approach. This could be a model case study, not only for Evanston, Chicago, but really the country. So, we want to take the opportunity to have you guys lead on a really diverse sort of housing complex for the middle. But we have to ask that you take your time in reviewing this, and that you don't jump to the conclusion or, rush this decision, because there are a lot of questions that sounds like there's still a lot of questions that still need to be addressed and answered, and putting this into land development versus special use is really what everyone is concerned about, that we want to make sure that we're doing our due diligence and listening to the land use experts that have recommended this go to Land Use Commission. So I'm just asking everyone to just slow down and put this through the proper vetting that it deserves. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Wes Kahn.
Good evening. My name is Wes Kahn. I am a real estate developer doing work around Chicagoland and Evanston. I am a friend of Mr. Wallach. He's been a mentor to me for a long time. I wanted to come today to vouch for the fact that he builds quality housing, and also to say that a project like this could be an example across the country for a new type of housing that is affordable by many people, that is not subsidized by the government. I know I'm eagerly waiting to see and hope that this gets approved, and hoping to replicate this kind of model across the country. And Evanston has always been at the forefront of social equality. I think this could be a step in the same direction. To do that, we have to provide opportunities for everyone to be able to afford a home here. Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, I believe that's everyone I have signed up for this particular item. Whoops, here comes somebody else. Maybe not. Okay. Well, then we are going to hear from the residents, a 10-minute presentation, and then we'll hear from the developer, another 10-minute presentation. So Cindy Beebe, I think you're going to give the neighbors presentation. Whoop. Oh, thanks.
Thank you for agreeing to listen to our concerns tonight. My name is Cindy Beebe, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Grant Street neighbors regarding the proposed efficiency homes at 1917 Grant Street. We would like to see this proposal return to the proposed development process and not be approved as a special use permit. Mr. Wallach is asking to develop a unique, unproven project with no comparable projects anywhere in the Midwest. This issue began in 2021 when the tiny house ordinance was passed by City Council, with the understanding that tiny houses were meant for small and odd-sized lots that were unfit for other use. In a city memorandum dated October 31st, 2021, and written by city staff, it states, and I quote, "Since efficiency homes are intended for small or odd-shaped lots that are otherwise challenging to build on," unquote. No one at that time considered the possibility that large numbers of tiny homes might be built on zoned land. Sometime in the fall of 2022 or early winter of 2023, developer David Wallach came to the city and proposed his idea for building many tiny homes on 2 vacant adjacent lots of land. This was a normal business move, but we need to note that Mr. Wallach approached Evanston with his idea. Evanston did not approach Mr. Wallach and ask for his help, and therefore Mr. Wallach assumes all the risk of this idea and proposal. Having said that, there is nothing wrong with Mr. Wallach coming to the city and hoping to do a deal. He's a businessman who sees a potential market, and that's fine. At that point, sometime in late 2022 or early 2023, Mr. Wallach and the city staff began to work on a proposal for many tiny homes to build on these 2 lots. Until August of 2023 or so, last summer, no one in the Grant Street neighborhood was aware of this plan. When a sign was posted in front of the vacant land late last summer and neighbors became aware of the proposal, I met within a few weeks with the city staff to discuss what they were thinking. Before this meeting, I spent about an hour reviewing the city codes. During the meeting, one of the questions I asked was, why isn't this going through as a planned development? It seemed obvious to me even then that this proposal should go through as a planned development and not on a special use permit, and I didn't know anything about the city code. One of the city staffers replied, "We're going to see if we can get this through as a special use permit." Even though I knew nothing about zoning laws at that point, I knew that if they were going to try to get it through on a special use permit, that meant that they were unsure of their process and of their ultimate success. This was a gamble and is one of the main reasons we're all here tonight. We believe this decision was a mistake on the part of the staff. This proposal has never belonged under special use, which brings me to Evanston City Code 6-3-5-13, no presumption of approval. And it states, the listing of a special use within each zoning district does not constitute an assurance or presumption that such special use will be approved. The city staff can propose whatever they want, but they are not the decision makers. You are. Which brings me to another reason we're here tonight. Ryan Field, which understandably took up almost all of staff and city council time and energy for months. Ryan Field was a once-in-a-generation issue and a massively important decision with long-ranging consequences. But in a normal year for Evanston, without the Ryan Field issue to dominate the landscape, we believe this proposal would have received a lot more scrutiny earlier on in the process. Because we believe this decision that you're going to vote on tonight is also a massively important decision that will have far-ranging impact on the city's future. It's what we've been trying to say to you all along. We know that the entire zoning code and the comprehensive plan is going to be changed by the Envision Evanston process. And you might think because of that, it doesn't make any difference what you decide tonight, because since it's all going to be changed anyway, tonight's decision won't have a long-term impact on our zoning laws. But the opposite is true. It makes tonight's decision even more important for the long-term health of Evanston, because what you decide tonight is going to set the bar for what the city uses to start the zoning review process. If you lower the bar tonight, you have weakened yourselves and the zoning laws before the Envision Evanston process even begins. We need to get this decision right the first time. Again, this is a unique and unproven idea. We agree with the Land Use Commission that we need to set a standard and see how this development evolves going forward. Important issues about our quality of life, including traffic, parking, children walking to schools, landscaping, drainage, marketing, alley paving, and additional community benefits should all be considered and discussed before this proposal is passed. If it goes through the planning development process, they will be. Our neighborhood is diverse, inclusive, and vibrant, and includes apartments, townhomes, condos, and public housing. We have neighbors who are active in both green energy and affordable housing issues. We've already proved our willingness to embrace diversity by welcoming the first 2 tiny houses in Evanston. They're going up almost directly across from my house on my house on Noy Street. And just so you know, I was the one who calmed down the neighborhood about these tiny houses because they're being built on a lot that is only 10 feet wide and the land isn't zoned. We also believe that our neighborhood should have been notified of this proposal much earlier in the process. That way we could have avoided this unnecessary tumult. Springing it on us in this way wasn't fair and has caused considerable ill will among neighbors. This confusion was unnecessary. I have two signs that I'd like to briefly show you. This sign, and I'll show it to the screen so the alderman up there can see it as well. This sign shows Evanston's missing middle. In 2023, for units that sold under $380,000, a total of 434 units were sold. The average square foot cost was $218. This is in Evanston last year. Mr. Wallach's proposed price, even though it's approximate because his price keeps changing, is approximately $600 per square foot. Additionally, Evanston single-family home sales under 1,000 square feet in 2023. 18 units sold that were under 1,000 square feet. The average price per square foot was $330. Mr. Wallach's proposed price is about $600 per square foot. Mr. Wallach claims he is trying to provide homes for the missing middle, but I went online today and there are 4 properties listed as Evanston lakefront homes for sale. Their average price per square foot is $562 per square foot. That is less than Mr. Wallach's price per square foot. That is not missing middle housing. I love my neighborhood, and obviously so does everyone here tonight. But none of us would confuse living on Grant Street with living on the lakefront. Neither should you. Mr. Wallach can propose anything he wants at any price point he wants, but that doesn't make his data fit in the real world, and it doesn't mean you have to believe him. Finally, it would be irresponsible of me not to discuss Mr. Wallach's financial condition, and it would be irresponsible of you not to be aware of it because it is public information. You can do with the facts whatever you want, but as city alderman, you shouldn't be ignorant of publicly available information on such an important matter. Mr. Wallach is currently bankrupt in 2 companies and is a named defendant in a 3rd court case filed on July 31st, 2023 in Kenosha County. Again, this is public information. You, the city council, don't have the right to come back 6 months from now or a year from now and claim you didn't know that. Your fiduciary responsibility is to the city. It's to the people who live here and the people who work here. You all did your best with Ryan Field, no matter how you voted. You spent months working hard, and no one can ever say that you didn't pay enough attention to the issue. That's what we're asking for here. We're asking you to vote to return this proposal to the plan development process so that we can all get the information we need and you can do your due diligence. If, after this goes to planning and development as a proposal, you want to pass this, then fine. But for now, we ask you to use your common sense and take this historically important vote seriously. That's what we're asking of you tonight. Please, do your best for us, just like you did for Ryan Field. Do your best for Evanston. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then David Wallach.
All right.
Question, I don't know if
Oops.
we should hold it to the end. Should we do that?
Right, that'd be, I mean, but yeah, we'll have Q&A after. Yeah.
First, I want to thank everybody for the opportunity to come back before you again. And we do appreciate the fact that we're being compared to Ryan Field. I mean, that's a very big project. We're talking about 12 efficiency homes. But if we just wait for this to load here. So just to refresh everybody's recollection here, the project seeks to address the need for missing middle housing in Evanston and is not an affordable housing project. There's a lot of confusion about price per square foot and what things cost. 516, let's say $500 a square foot for a 2,000 square foot home is $1 million. $500 a square foot for a 600 square foot home is $300,000. I just want to make sure the math is really simple because you can get lost in that type of thing. We're looking to solve the missing middle housing market by building homes that are a price for people. In the city of Evanston right now, you've got 5 homes that are on the lake, or I'm sorry, in the ward, and the average price is $1,120,000. $1,120,000 is more than $350,000, just for clarification purposes. And look, this isn't development by Wallach. When the conversation started with city and with city staff, we were talking about a completely different project. And I was on my soapbox talking about the need for housing because I've been doing that for 30 years. So it just doesn't happen where you walk in and try and sell a bag of goods. This is something that we've been interested in and have been doing for a long time, right? So we're not looking to build a nuclear waste facility on Grant Street. We're looking to provide homes for people. Hope everybody keeps that in mind as we go through this because that's what we're about, right? All the other stuff, I'll leave that to the community. But they're concerned about our well-being, and I appreciate the overwhelming concern. We've developed, as a team, more than $500 million of development in our 40 years. We've completed more than $1 billion of development as contractors. To date, we've invested more than $100,000 in this project on Grant Street. On the shots taken about with lawsuits, my company, we have a manufacturing company. We manufacture a light-gauge insulated wall. We had a problem with our lender back in the fall. They came after us. We filed a bankruptcy in order to protect the assets and move the company forward. We spent over $100,000 to date keeping the company open. We spent $85,000 in new equipment for the company. We're producing more than $200,000 of panels currently within the company. So we certainly appreciate the concern of everybody, but we'll be just fine. Thank you. Other members of the community advise us that we do a lot better if we just build $2.5 million homes on that. We make more money, right? But it's disingenuous, right? We don't want to be part of the crisis. We want to be part of the solution, and that's what we're here to do. So what is missing middle housing? They point to other properties that are in Evanston you could buy, right? You can buy other stuff that's under $350,000. You can buy a condo in an old crappy building that has a bunch of deferred maintenance and real high assessments, and that's under $350,000. They point to all the statistics about all the missing middle housing that's sold in Evanston. How many they tell you was single family homes? How many? And the answer to that question is going to be 0. And why is that? Why is that? Let's take a little quick history lesson of how we get to this point today, folks. Right? This has been going on for 100+ years. Used to be redlining, but the Supreme Court said you can't do that. So after that happened in around 1924, they started to put policies in place. Things like where you're making loans for a mortgage company. Zoning came in place, 1 home per single zoning lot, right? That type of thing. So all you were left with of that is what we have today, which isn't this type of housing. You've got $1,120,000 single-family homes you can buy in the 7th Ward. You've got the type of condo projects that they're talking about, right? You've got row houses there for $600,000, $700,000. You got all that. What you don't have is this product. That's the missing middle housing, not the games that they're playing with there. And if you want to look at, there's some I evidenced it here, some really great treatises on how we get here from a zoning standpoint and why we're at where we're at. And getting to the planned development, local governments are also increasingly recognizing that the restrictive zoning and outdated land use regulations can suppress housing supply, driving up housing costs and widen the racial and economic disparities. So it's the smart zoning reforms that you're looking for. It's things like planned developments that kill projects like this. It just is. And it's in place to kill projects like this. That's why they're there. That's why they've been there for 100-some years. That's why you don't have middle missing housing, single family homes to sell throughout the country. So by using by changing and tweaking your zoning just a little bit, right? To go from a PD, which kills projects like this because there's no clear path to the end, to having a special use where there is a clear end game, you then open up the opportunity to hit this missing middle housing. And that's the type of regulatory change that you should be doing. And municipalities around the country are doing it, changing zoning lots from single family, one zoning lot per, to up to 4 to 6. The special use process here worked. It worked as designed, unlike what some of the commentary to this point. Again, we started this talking about something else and then got on to how we start solving missing middle. And in working with staff, the development has modified the project over the past year as follows. We added 15 parking spaces to the project when none were required. We added outdoor space for the project, including a fire pit and barbecue area. We eliminated variances on the rear yard, side yard, and front yard. We agreed to meet any trash recycle requirements recommended by the city, and we continue to work with the civil department on underwater, stormwater detainage and the like. Further, with staff and the inclusionary housing department, who we also met with, we changed the project from 13 homes with 1.5 bedroom to 12 homes featuring all 2 bedroom because your inclusionary housing department wanted that, so we made that change for them. We agreed to the sale of 1 home to meet those housing standards. And then after being directed by the City Land Use Commission, there was some discussion at that meeting. We provided 1 electric vehicle charging station at their request. We worked with staff on providing facade materials and gave them a full breadth of all the materials being used. We eliminated curb cuts on Grand Street. We improved access to the garbage enclosures. We provided revised set of plans, including all the material used, home designs, and green spaces. And what you don't generally get in a special use, folks, is a full-on market study. So we provided a full-on market study for this project. And that independent market study gave you 3 conclusions. There's sufficient market demand for the project. We lowered our price on the per unit to $350,000. And the conclusion of that market study was also that it would have a positive effect on the project. And this is the type of development that's occurring all over the country. This notion that somehow we're doing something like radical, we're like, I don't know, it's like underground mouse holes or things like that. We're building housing. You can put whatever adjective you'd like in front of the word home, right? Whatever it is, but it's still Dorothy and Wizard of Oz. There's no place like home. It's where you hang your hat. It is a 2-bedroom, legitimate 2-bedroom, single-family home. You want to call it an efficiency. You want to call it a micro. You want to call it a tiny home. I don't know. People who live in it are going to call it home. That's it. It's not really that complicated. So conclusions in support of this development. More than 94% of the people buying residential real estate want a home. So for all the other market stuff that there's, 48 and all these things that other people bought that were under 350, they weren't single-family homes, right? But 94% of the people buying real estate want single-family homes. Right? So we're focusing on the missing middle market housing to provide a solution to single-family home ownership. The current project reduces density of lot coverage in the neighborhood and brings down the cost of home ownership without government subsidies. We're not asking anybody for anything here. We just want a permit. The project is aligned with existing neighborhood conditions. I've got some slides for that. The project will decrease parking and traffic-related issues. We're eliminating curb cuts on Grand Street. We're bringing all the traffic in through the back, where everybody else brings their cars, all around Colfax and Grand Street. They're all using that alley. So I guess it's in such bad shape nobody needs to use it, but everybody seems to be able to use it. The development will add housing to standards of the $1 million homes that are on Lake Michigan. We're not cutting costs here. We're building in terms of the quality, the same quality we're putting in our 1.5 million homes here in Evanston. Their market rate and financed using conventional financing terms, which will restrict the rental on it. I know that was at one point a concern, but wasn't raised tonight. And the project is in keeping with Evanston's building of such housing throughout its history and targets 85% of housing nationally without children and 30% of households in this country of single people. Again, on the quality, same quality that we're building $1.5 million homes with, we're using to build ours. Missing middle housing. How do you get there? This slide shows you that for a single family home, you need to be an executive making about $250,000 a year to afford these $1,120,000 homes. If you're a nurse or a mechanic, the nurse might be able to live in the fourplex on the corner there. Neither can afford the mechanic or the nurse can afford a single family home or even a duplex. I want two very quick points I'll make. Councilman Newsma went through this slide, actually, I don't know if it was at City Council, talking about the standards for amendments, and found at one of the hearings that we had met all four standards on that. We're all about the climate action and resilience plan that Evanston has put forth, and we're designing these to reduce energy efficiency, and there are no gas lines in it. This is all electric. This is the neighborhood, all lot line to lot line. This is on Colfax. So this is similar to a cottage development, but what it does is it takes those individual homes and it connects them all, right? That's not what people want. It's available. You can buy there. You can buy right next door to us. There's townhouses right next door to us as well. You can't buy a single family home. That has more density on it than we would ever want to be building. Our permeable space on it is half of what we're otherwise allowed to be. We can do about 17,000 of permeable space. We're at about 8,000 on 29,000 square foot lot. We're not going to have an adverse effect on the community. It's going to be a positive change in that neighborhood, and it'll bring more homeowners to the neighborhood. So I want to thank you again for the opportunity to present to you, and would like the opportunity to answer any questions if anybody would like to have any.
Okay, great, thank you. So, committee, Councilmember Burns, did you want to start with the question?
Yeah, it's kind of been sorted out. I was reacting to the a sign that Ms. Beebe put up, and just wanted to make sure it was clear that I don't think those numbers are newly built single family homes, et cetera. Like if you just look at the market and say, okay, what is the average price that homes are selling for, or average price per square foot? Are we looking at brand new? Does those numbers consider brand new developments? Everything, basically, yeah. And so I'd be interested to know, because that's the difference here, obviously, because I've heard people say that around affordable housing. I'm an affordable housing advocate. They say, there's a lot of affordable housing, but is there a lot of new affordable housing? The answer would be no. It's mostly, as he said, deferred maintenance, different product, obviously, but a lot of deferred maintenance that comes with the older.
If I made it that point, it's a great point, and I didn't, just because I only had 10 minutes, I didn't touch on it. But it really is the systemic inequities that occur in our areas, right? It's saying that you've got people that can live and afford that price point over there, right? That's been going on for 100+ years. Right? That's the reason why you don't have in your community new, smaller single-family homes, multiple homes on a single zoning lot. That's the reason. So pointing to that, that's a great statistic for the reason why you have the problem. Like I would take those stats and put them right in at the front of the slides. That is your problem. Exactly the quotes, exactly the statistics that they came up with is your problem.
Okay.
And then forcing that through a planned development is part of that same systemic inequity that we're trying to avoid.
Okay, thank you.
That's all for now.
Okay, other, Councilmember Newsma?
I'll just weigh in here. I don't know if I have any questions, but I'll share some observations. The timing of this proposal is unfortunate in that if Mr. Wallach were to come to us at this point next year, we may very well have a process in place with regulations and guardrails and guidelines that would allow staff, the Land Use Commission, and council to evaluate a project such as this against. I'm referring, of course, to our Envision Evanston process. What you're saying about systemic inequities built into our zoning code, completely true. We're aware of that. We're in the process of fixing that. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to fix that in time for your project. So I don't want to throw staff under the bus because they didn't have our current code does not contemplate a development such as this. So it could go one way, it could go the other. It's proceeding as a special use. And so to me, the question comes down to a process versus outcome, which is typical balance for any number of issues. What is the outcome we want, and what's more important, the outcome or the process? And you need to have some kind of a process, but ultimately we are heading towards an outcome. So, I'm really flummoxed by this, because I think the neighbors are making a very, very good point, in that since we don't really have a process for something like this, we need to be really, really careful. Since this is not a one-off, this is something we would like to do throughout Evanston, in wherever we can make it happen. And so we need to be more careful than we would otherwise be, because, like it or not, we'd be setting a precedent here. And so we've come this far without really a pre-established process or pre-established guidelines. I wonder if we had pre-established guidelines or a pre-established process for this type of neighborhood, if the outcome would be any different. Right? It's a rhetorical question. We cannot answer that because we don't have a process and we don't know at this point. So I'm really caught in the middle here. I don't know what to do because I agree with the neighbors. I agree with the developer. We want something like this. So I'm at an impasse. I'm going to leave my comments
right
there. And I might go back. Mr. Wallach wants to jump in.
Yeah, I disagree.
Yeah, and Mr. Wallach, if I could, it's not fair that you're at the microphone and Ms. Beebe is not at the microphone to be able to have equal time with you. So you can respond, and then Ms.
Yeah, that's fair. You do have a process. It's not the process that's being proposed, right? And the process being proposed is the type of process that kills projects like this. You have a process for special use. And in fact, we went ahead through that entire process, and even above that, because one of the things that you wouldn't get in a special use is like a market study. So you get a market study, maybe a traffic study. You got a very big project. In working through
And if you could try to speak into the microphone, please.
in working through this from the beginning with staff, and I'll leave it to staff to answer the question, was that they determined that the process of a plan development was not the right process, and that this was. So we did follow a process. It's not the process that some people are articulating, right? So it's slightly different, but I think it turns out to be a difference with what's the saying? Something without a difference. I'm losing my thought here. Distinction without a difference. So you have a market study. You have all the feedback from land use. You have now twice before this body, right? And somebody from staff was going to come up, I think.
Yep, right.
Good evening, Liz Williams from the Department of Community Development. I just wanted to make one comment based on Councilmember Newsma's comments. Just because this project is following the special use process and that's the application request before you, should another development come in the future that would meet the planned development threshold, which means a lot over 30,000 square feet, covered roof area of more than 20,000 square feet, more than 24 units, that project would follow the planned development process regardless of the decision that you make this evening. So I just want to make that clarification.
Given code as it currently exists.
No, even if you adopt what is proposed in front of you this evening.
No, but short of our Envision Evanston process, kind of rewriting the rules.
Absolutely. That could be a completely new process that is not within our zoning code today. Right. But I just wanted to clarify the point that it isn't that any future project would not follow the plan development process that we have in code today.
Right.
If it met the thresholds for a plan development, it would follow that process.
Great, thank you. And let me ask Ms. Beebe to comment.
Just a couple of quick things right offhand. No offense, but I come from many generations of realtors, and technically these aren't single-family homes. There's a homeowners association involved with them. And so they're more like detached condos. So I understand your point in terms of they're boxes that stand by themselves, but they're not actually single-family homes. And I also lost my train of thought. So I might have to, but that never happens to any of you, I know. And but in terms of plan development, what's unusual about this is that this is a unique development. We have never done anything like this, and there's never been anything like this done in the Midwest. There's nothing to compare it to. For that reason, we're asking you, all we're saying is, please dot your I's and cross your T's. Have it go back to plan development. Mr. Burns wasn't sure about which house is new or not. That would be answered in a plan development study. The idea that, quite frankly, that I know we have to address racial inequality, but my block has public housing on it and has for decades. And there are many single-family homes that are very desirable, even though they're old. So, yes, I think there is a place for something like this, but we first have to figure out what the heck it is we're doing. And I think right now we're just kind of in the dark, just kind of trying to figure out what we're doing, and nobody seems to have a good answer to that.
Okay, thank you. And we're going to go to
point of information.
Question from Councilmember Kelly.
And a quick point of information, if I can. I just want to make sure that if our guests today are responding, that they're responding to questions and not statements, because then we might be here for a while.
Yeah.
So if you have a question, just ask a question so they can respond to that.
Right.
But I don't think they should just react to everything we say
Right,
here.
yeah.
That could take
Good
longer
point.
than we
Thank
have.
you. Yeah. Councilmember Kelly.
Thank you. So, I concur with Councilmember Nusma. We have currently on our zoning, so you're allowed one efficiency home per plot. And I agree with increasing that, but I think if we're going to do this, I am in favor of these like subdivisions of these pocket neighborhoods. But let's do it so we ensure that it's successful. I'm a little concerned. I don't understand why going through the due diligence of a planned development should kill this. So the market study, sure, but that market study didn't go to the Land Use Commission. It came to us. And I really want all of our experts on the Land Use Commission. This is going to pass. They all talked about how they like this idea. But who are we trying to accommodate by delaying it by another month? If it goes back as a planned development, then the market study, as well as everything else, including especially landscaping with tree counts and everything, all that goes back to them to assess so that we go forward in what I would say is an equitable way. If we're creating homes that are more affordable and equitable, especially those homes, I want to be especially careful that we are, in fact, really exercising due diligence to create good, solid homes. And I'm confused as to why that should kill it. A little extra scrutiny, that would be good for the project. So, and then I just want to make one more comment. I'd really like to see two of these efficiency homes be land trust homes. I would love it, and I'll move this later on, but I'd like to have staff I've spoken with Rob Anthony, talk to Rob Anthony and come back with a proposal for the city to purchase two of these homes to create permanent affordability. Affordability in perpetuity as land trust, where these could actually be sold at $150,000 each. The city would invest a small amount to ensure, and I think particularly, I know the first ward and the fifth ward have, from what I understand, the highest number of designated low-income housing. And I think some of this, seventh and the sixth wards have much less. This would be an ideal place to establish two land trust homes, homes that remain affordable forever. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I think I'll weigh in. So this project has been just amazingly challenging. I thought after the stadium, nothing would be quite like that. But this one, I have to say, is, as Councilmember Nusma indicated, it's been really difficult for us. The proposal has a number of really wonderful meets a lot of our priorities. It's super energy efficient. It provides increased density, which I think we've all said we want to see. Diversity of housing types, which we're talking about, and missing middle alternatives. So those were things that really resonated and made us think this was the way to go. but it's more than an efficiency home project. It really is a pocket neighborhood project, and that's where the dilemma comes. We have a zoning code that talks about what we look for in an efficiency home, but we don't have guidelines or standards to look to when we think about what a pocket neighborhood should look like. So there have been suggestions that we send it back to the Land Use Commission and ask them to consider this as under our plan development process. But the Land Use Commission doesn't really have the guidelines and standards either. And we're going to be getting those guidelines and standards, I'm assuming, through our Envision Evanston process and the new comprehensive plan and the new zoning code. So it seems to me, we have several different, we have alternatives. We send it back to the Land Use Commission and ask them to deal with it as a plan development without the guidelines that I think we all would like to see. And then, of course, it would come back to us, once again, without the guidelines we need. Or we can say, no, thank you. Right now, come back to us. I know this is not a happy idea for Mr. Wallach. Come back to us after we see what the guidelines and standards are that come to us through the Engage Evanston process and the new zoning code that we're going to have there. So that's just, I have to say, I've said whiplash is how I feel in terms of what I've been thinking about the project over the last few days. So that's kind of where I am. I don't know if other council members want to weigh in. Councilmember Reed, do we have a hand up from you? Good. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. I think you left one option off, which is to approve it.
Oh, there we go. Right. Yes.
Yeah. So there's three options.
Yeah. Thank you.
And I do think that sending it back to land use is, I think I don't know if this is the point you're making, but sending it to land use without guidelines to me doesn't seem very fruitful. And it'll just come back to us. I think we should really be looking at this on an individual basis. Is this a project that is good for Evanston? Does this align with our council goals? I think we because we're engaging in the Envision Evanston process now, I think we have to use our own guidelines to assess this. And I'm supportive of this project. I like Councilmember Kelly's idea. If that's an option for the city to purchase at market rate, two of the units or two of the homes and then put them in a land trust, that's to me a fine idea. But I think we should move forward with this tonight. I guess my question is, I'm still not hearing. Really, the only issue that I'm hearing is that we don't have guidelines for this. I don't know if I'm hearing any other salient issues. So please, if I'm missing something, if someone can fill me in, and then I just want to respond to that. Is that really the heart of the issue? Am I missing something?
Well, do you want to weigh in, Councilmember Newsom? Try on a guideline here.
Councilmember Reed, I think that accurately summarizes at least my understanding of what the neighbors are saying.
Yeah. So to me, the lack of guidelines, for what's, and this is coming through as, I'm sorry, this is not a plan development now. This is coming through as a
special use.
Special use. To me, this makes sense, and I would encourage folks to vote yes. Let's get a little creative. We need the missing middle. I've got apartments in my ward that I need, the nurse and the plumber, and I need those folks to move out of the apartments and buy a home, so folks who are lower income can take those rental units. And clear up some space. And so we need this missing middle housing. We need more affordable housing units on the north side of town. And so I would encourage us to vote yes to this. And also, I don't want Evanston to be, I'm sure we already have a reputation, but, I and it is the process, but I don't like the idea of us being seen as a city that, jerks folks around and makes it less likely that we'll be able to attract development, period, but certainly, innovative, interesting new development like this. And so, it's been mentioned before in other cases that folks, were worried about Evanston's reputation. And I think this is one of those cases where, it seems like a good project. The only issue is the lack of process. We'll have clarification next year. Let's move this forward, and let's see what we come up with the Envision Evanston process. Thank you.
Okay. And Councilmember Kelly, you have your hand up again.
Thank you. So we do have a process, and plan development is, and I'm sorry, I don't have all the paperwork in front of me, but it's a very long list of items that you bring forward to the Land Use Commission to evaluate a proposal that is outside of, so this was supposed to be 1 unit per plot of land, and now we're saying you can go to any number basically, but it has to, then it is, in essence, like a subdivision or a pocket neighborhood. It's something that doesn't fit into our zoning. Therefore, we're going to hold it to the plan development standards. And those apply to many different things. We don't write different application item requirements for every single variation of a plan development. And that's so that's why this is, and again, I'm not sure what reputation you're talking about. I think our reputation to our residents is what counts. We're talking about a delay of maybe a month. So again, Land Use Commission, I'm not worried that this is going to pass. Land Use Commission expressed their majority support for a pocket neighborhood. I'm expressing mine. We shouldn't be running around trying to, tailor what we do to just rush something through for a developer. The developer should be happy to bring forward the necessary requirements for the Land Use Commission. A month delay, 6 weeks delay for our first pocket neighborhood in Evanston. To me, there's really no reason not to that I can see at all. I want to go back also. I do want to, direct staff. I hope I can get a second on that to engage with SEPA to look at those. I think currently there was going to be one affordable unit at, I think it was $250, if I'm not mistaken. That was the price. So if we could consider negotiating with Mr. Wallach to purchase 2 at $250, for homes to be then sold at $150 again. And I know that, Mr. Anthony is very happy to sit down with the city to discuss that. So I hope we can look at both. So it could all be done in the same, go back as a plan development, bring forward the market study, which the Land Use Commission never saw the market study, the landscaping, the community benefits, and all the rest. It's not, but it's the water, the drainage, everything would go through them. They are the experts, the architects, the engineers. Let them assess that, bring it back. Then we know we've done our due diligence. And at the same time, I'd like to see a proposal for a relatively small city investment to create 2 land trust efficiency homes here. Thank you.
Okay, so Councilmember Burns.
This is, and I guess the question is for Liz. Sorry, Liz. Why this? I think you talked about it before, the size of the lot. But if you could explain again why I believe staff's position is this should not go through a plan development process, because if you could pick up there.
Yeah, so current code requires that if there's more than one efficiency home on a lot, it triggers a plan development review process. And in this case, our plan development thresholds have pretty high standards. So it's 30,000 square foot lot that would require, any new development on that size lot would require a plan development to be processed. If it's more than 24 homes, that's another trigger for a plan development. If there's more than 20,000 square foot of roofed area, that's another trigger for a plan development. In every case of this particular proposal, it wasn't reaching the threshold for a plan development. And so what staff had offered as an option. There were many paths given to Mr. Wallach that he could pursue in terms of application, one of which would be to request a text amendment to our current efficiency home that would change the review process from a planned development if more than one efficiency home was proposed per lot to a special use permit, knowing that if a more than 1 or 2 unit efficiency home were proposed on a large lot like that in the future, it would trip that PD threshold. So again, for smaller pocket neighborhoods like what Mr. Wallach was proposing, the process that he chose to apply for would be the amending our text of our code currently and having it be a special use. If there were a future project that, let's say, had 24 units proposed, it would not go through the special use process. It would require that planned development because it's a larger scale project. So again, it was trying to find the balance in recognizing there are different scales of development being proposed within the community. One by right, one efficiency home by right would be a permitted use. But if it's 2, having to require a planned development seemed a little extreme in terms of a review process. So that's where staff was trying to find a balance and provide options to Mr. Wallach. Ultimately, he chose to apply for a text amendment to make this a special use. He could have applied for a text amendment to create a use called pocket neighborhood and invented a process for that. That was offered to Mr. Wallach as well as an option and a path forward. He chose to go the route that he did. So, I just want to make it clear that staff did not say you have to do this. We gave him options and it was his choice to pursue whatever option he wanted.
And then, I hear a month thrown around a few times. I mean, is that realistic that if this went back to land use for whatever reason, that this would only need a month before it?
So we don't currently have a planned development application from Mr. Wallach, so he would have to apply for that application. We would have to process it as a planned development. So this isn't just, I don't think it would be appropriate to refer it back as a planned development because ultimately he's applied for a text amendment to change the zoning code.
My question is not the appropriateness, but more so how long would that take, even if we did decide to do it?
In this case, it would need to be noticed, so we would have to provide noticing. And I think we have quite a caseload already lined up, so we have applications in the queue, probably 3 months, I would guess, before it would come back.
And then if it went back to land use, not necessarily as for a planned development, but just went back for further review, which I'm sure is in our, we could do that.
Absolutely.
In that case, would that take a month?
I think what would be beneficial in that case is to provide, specific what has changed and what you are asking the Land Use Commission to reconsider as part of that referral back to them. If you're asking them to evaluate, you would need to be specific about what that referral is. And I would also offer that we have other cases pending. And so it would need to fall in line with those other cases that are already out there.
But is it possible that could take a month, or you think even with that longer?
I think it is potential. It could take a little longer, but yeah.
A month doesn't kill this deal for you, obviously, right? And I say that with respect for both sides, of course, the community, but also respect for developers. I know how much goes into it. Developers of all types, affordable, missing middle, market rate, whatever. There's a lot of time that goes into it. But just based on that experience, if I were to take a guess, I'd say a month doesn't kill this, right?
No.
3 months is a different story, but a month.
And I appreciate the discussion point. I've been at it for 30 years.
Yeah.
Right. So, a month, God willing, ain't going to change that. We had conversation with Land Use Commission the night that we didn't pass, right? And it's because the efficiency homes was at 500 square feet, and we were asked by inclusionary housing to do 600 square feet. So that was the text amendment. So they couldn't pass our special use because there was nothing in the code to allow them to have the special use, right? And we walked up to a few of the commissioners following the meeting, and I would tell you that even though we left there down 4-1 on a vote because of that technicality, there was a lot of love in the room, and they appreciated what we were doing. I even offered to them, do you want us to come back? And their comment, I'm not going to say names or whatever it was, but the discussion was, you don't have to. It's a good project. Go back in front of planned development, right? So the fact that we're a tennis ball a little bit going back and forth, I'm a developer. It's happened before. It wouldn't be the first time. So we're committed to it. And I don't want to force something that people aren't comfortable with. I've never done that in my life. It's not something that we're doing, but understanding there was a process here.
For sure, yeah.
And the information that you've garnered is the project. And not going ahead with projects like this. We were offered different things by this. In fact, we were offered to just do this as a planned development, even though it didn't fit in the planned development bucket. So we were told by the city, here's how that conversation went, just so we're clear. It's not a planned development really because you don't have the 30,000 square feet, you don't have the 24 homes, you don't have all the things that trigger it. But we've got this thing down here with the efficiency homes. It wasn't really intended to push things into a planned development, but I guess we can, and what do you want to do, right? And my response to it was, well, I don't want anybody to do me any favors, right? We could do it as a PD, and then it's just, and I'm just offering this up to the board. Then you're allowing my project on Grant Street to go forward. Love it. It's awesome. It's a fart in a windstorm. I mean, you need these projects and projects like these throughout Evanston. You need to do what other municipalities around the country are doing, which is tweaking your zoning ordinance, because what you get is what you ask for. 100 years of zoning law gets you one home on a single family zoning lot, gets you a duplex, and it gets you multifamily housing. That's what it gets you. So that's the consideration to it. But would a month kill us?
Yeah. So the reason why I say a month is, obviously
within that time frame.
Everybody else is saying a month.
Yeah.
Based on my experience, I doubt a month would kill the deal, which you've just confirmed. And so the question is, if we need a month to use, do we use it at land use? Do we use it here? How do we use it and why are we using it? I don't really know how we would use it, but just as a way to provide something to folks that have some concerns here. Let's say we have a month. How are we going to use that time would be the question real quick. And then I guess another question to Liz is what I heard Ms. Beebe say a few times is there's nothing like this in the Midwest, which probably means there's something like this somewhere. What type of process do they have in place for these types of developments? Yeah. And if you could compare it to...
There's a study that you've got that we provided as part of our study. It's appended to it for Evanston. It's done in Asheville, North Carolina. And the demographics there are almost right on par. And they commissioned this company to do a study for Asheville, North Carolina. And it's a great study, and it touches on all the themes that we talked about here. In fact, I point to a few of them here. I'd really welcome you to go take a look at that. And they came to the conclusion that other municipalities throughout the country are coming to, which is that single zoning lots for single family homes is causing systemic inequities. We need to think about ways of tweaking our zoning in order to make this type of housing more available.
So we need to move the discussion along.
So Asheville, North Carolina, in November of last year, so just a couple months old.
Right.
Well, just if you can answer that, the question I have though is for similar projects, because I didn't see this in any materials. Maybe it was in there, but we get a lot of information. But how are other cities handling projects like these?
Yeah,
from a process standpoint.
Correct. Yeah. I think it really varies. I think that the vast majority of communities that I'm aware of do follow a planned development process. I was involved with a similar project when I worked in Wisconsin. That project ended up not moving forward because it met some issues with being able to actually come to fruition. And I think that it was a combination of the process and just the development proposal and some site constraints that really killed the deal. But
even in like more progressive places that have gone through comp processes, zoning processes, like we're going to undergo pretty soon, projects like these ended up in a P&D type process?
I would say, as Mr. Wallach pointed out, there is an appendix that kind of went through the other communities. I can't rattle that off at the top of my head in terms of how they process it, but the vast majority I am aware of have viewed it as a planned development.
Okay. I mean, and that
I just,
it almost requires a response at this point because that says a lot.
It does. That, and she answered it. Those are the type of things that kill deals like these. So that's exactly the point. That's why I'm standing on the soapbox right now. Mm-hmm. If you follow the existing zoning that's been going around for 100 years since redlining and the processing, that's what you get. So municipalities, and that's why you should read the Asheville study. Municipalities around the country, Portland just changed from 1 single family home to 4 per zoning lot. The state of Illinois has 6 counties that just eliminated single housing zoning lots in this state. Okay. Asheville, North Carolina is rewriting it to do that. And what they say is initially you need to tweak your zoning ordinances to get this type of projects in, right?
Okay,
As opposed to then potentially rewriting them. But,
right.
but
we
that's the answer.
need to move along. So Councilmember Harrison, and then, sure.
Could I just have 30 seconds?
Right.
I just want to say, I believe your name is Liz. She actually, early on in her speech, gave exactly the reason this should be reviewed. She said, we are changing the review process. She said that. We are changing the review process. So please do that carefully. It's your process. Please do it carefully.
I think I want to clarify here.
Yes, that is the application that you're considering tonight, which is the text amendment to change the process. So, that is what is before you this evening to vote on, is changing the process from projects like this being a planned development to them being a special use unless they meet the planned development threshold.
Right. Okay. Councilmember Harrison has had us light on for quite a while.
So I'll be quick. This discussion really, I just think, underlines the need for us to move forward with Envision Evanston. And, our last time we did the comprehensive plan was in 2000. Our zoning code rewrite was before that. Obviously, the land use is really good at what it does, is interpreting our zoning code. But we are decades past that, and this is the type of thing I feel we really need to do in the community. Zoning has been exclusionary. It's to keep people out of certain neighborhoods, and that's something we have to really tackle as a community. And I'm comfortable with where we're at moving this forward.
Okay. Councilmember Nguyen, we haven't heard from you yet.
Thank you. I'm still struggling with this. Several times we've heard that there needs to be a standard established for a pocket neighborhood, and that will be happening with our review of our comprehensive general plan. So as Councilmember Newsma said, the timing here is what's off. And my concern is, if we approve this tonight, are we creating a standard for a pocket neighborhood that we may actually not necessarily want going forward? So I'm still struggling with it, because I can see that a year from now we'll have a standard. We'll have the standards that the Land Use Commission could apply, and that we could look to also. But right now we don't have one.
Okay. Councilmember Reed, we haven't heard for a second time.
Yeah. I just want to say that I'm still unclear about what if we send this back to land use, what are we seeking from them?
Well, I think that's a big question, because I don't think, the Land Use Commission, their comments really said, talked a lot about how we're waiting for the new comprehensive plan and the new zoning code. So the reason they talked about the plan development, I think, was because that was what the current code says, that more than one efficiency home needs to be a planned development. But I think they really talked about the need for the new comprehensive plan and code, zoning code, to be able to really evaluate the project.
So is anyone else have a response? Because thank you for that, Chair.
Right.
But I still don't think I got an answer as to what we're seeking from them.
May I respond?
Who's that? Sure.
Okay,
Whoever, is that Claire?
Yeah, Councilmember Kelly,
And I'd like to win.
and then Councilmember Newsma.
Okay, thank you. So for one, the good news is, with regard to all of our aspirations to make our city more accessible and affordable, is that the Land Use Commission, and I think the council, is prepared to amend the zoning for efficiency homes, which currently says it's one per lot. So that's the good news, but it's how the text amendment. Is it going to be for special use or is it going to be for PD? And that's where I say, so I just want to make that clear. It's not like we're changing it from a planned development. Currently it is just one efficiency home, but now I think the Land Use Commission is in agreement to move that, to make that as, whatever we think it should be. But to put it through the BD, they unanimously said, let's do this and do it through a planned development process. And they, that was their unanimous direction, was that
Right.
this.
So hold on, Claire. Sorry.
Let me just finish.
No, you're answering my
Oh,
question.
you want to know?
You're not
Okay.
answering the question.
No,
so-
I am. I'm sorry. But to answer your question is that there's a whole bunch of different items. If you look at the application for a planned development versus that of a special use, there's much more that they'll go through to ensure that I'm not going to do it. You're not qualified. None of us are qualified to do that, but they are, to look at everything from traffic to
We're
market.
qualified to write the zoning code, but we're not qualified to do it.
No, we don't write them. We have
Yeah,
planners,
okay.
professionals.
Ladies
We
and
don't write them.
gentlemen.
My point is that they will scrutinize far better than what a special use application does. It's everything from drainage to traffic to
Right,
market
okay,
studies.
so Councilmember Kelly, we are ready now. Councilmember Newsma for a second time.
Well,
Thank you, Madam Chair. And if I'd like to actually speak to Councilmember Reed's point as well. What I'd like to get into is the difference between a special use and a planned development. And if I'm understanding correctly, and so this is a question first to staff, if this were a special use, what more would we be contemplating? That would, there are two answers. Like one is a traffic study and one is a market study. Is that a true statement? Do we have unanimous agreement from staff, from the developer, from the neighborhood that those are two pieces of information would be officially considered if this were a PUD, I should say? Body language in the room indicates yes.
That is correct. The other difference between a special use process, and again, I just want to clarify, if there's more than one efficiency home per lot, right now in our code today, it follows a planned development process. Right. The application in front of you is to change that to a special use unless it meets the planned development threshold. From a noticing standpoint, the difference is a planned development is 1,000-foot radius from the site. Special use is 500 feet, so you get additional noticing to neighborhood residents. You also get the landscape plan. You also get the market study. You also get a transportation study.
All right, so I said two of those things. I said market study, traffic plan. You're adding a third, which is a landscape.
And the special use process does allow for all of those things to be requested by the zoning administrator should they feel it is deemed necessary.
And the landscape plan exists.
Correct.
Traffic or the market study exists.
Correct.
What about a traffic study?
My understanding is no traffic analysis or study has been completed for this project.
Okay, so that's a question for Mr. Wallach. How long would it take to pull that together if we insisted on it?
I think that this is on Grant Street and there's 12 homes and 15 parking spaces. I think we'd probably call tomorrow and have it in a couple of weeks. I don't know that that's we're not changing traffic patterns on Wacker Drive.
Yeah. So I guess what I'm getting at is we could wait for this information to go through some kind of process officially, but I don't think it really changes an outcome. Which puts us right back to where we have been, which is, well, what the heck did we do?
Correct. Okay. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
So
if I
we
can
need to wrap this up, but Councilmember Reed has his hand up. So briefly.
Yeah, I'll be quick. So my point being is, if I don't see the point of sending it back to land use, I would urge folks to vote yes. But if you want to send it back to land use or you want this to be a planned development, just vote no. I encourage you to vote yes, but the answer is just to vote no, and then the applicant can go through the planned development process. I think that it would be a missed opportunity if we did that, but that's really the answer here. So I encourage folks to vote yes. I think Councilmember Hedikatis' points were should have been well received. If you're on the fence and you generally think this is a good idea, vote yes. To the concern about whether or not this sets a precedent, well, we're not just using our existing code. We are making an amendment to our code to have this be to go through the special use process. So if we don't like that in the future, or with next year with the Envision Evanston updates to our zoning code, we'll be able to fix that next year. But for now, we can, if you generally think this is a good idea, vote yes, let it go through. And if we need to make tweaks in the future, we'll have that opportunity next year.
Okay, and Councilmember Kelly.
Thank you. So I want to say we don't know, Councilmember Newsma, if we're going to be looking at the same thing. It depends what is brought back through the plan development process, what goes to Land Use Commission. So we really don't know exactly. Maybe there will be some modifications that we aren't able to think of due to some of the information that is brought forward going through the due diligence of a plan development process through the Land Use Commission. And I don't think, Councilmember Reed, we should vote no. We should vote to redirect this back as a plan development. I think we all are very interested in a pocket community, but we want it done right. And I think that's the bottom line. And I also want to mention for the record that I think recently the Land Use Commission had to cancel a recent meeting because there hasn't been that much on the docket. So I think this would be a good time to send it back. And again, we have to look out for our residents, for our city, and for future pocket developments. So
point of order, that's not how plan developments work. And as Liz said, you don't refer it to land use as a plan development. You vote no, and then he applies for a plan development.
Well, I know instead we would vote to have the text amendment so that you could increase the number of efficiency homes per lot, but it would have to go through the plan development process as opposed to through a special use.
Right. Well, I do think we've heard from staff that it would require more than simply sending it back to Land Use Commission for, like one meeting. I think Mr. Wallach would have to come up with, submit a whole new proposal. We'd have to renotice it. I mean, we're talking easily, I think easily 3 months. So it's not, and then I guess I am concerned that, Land Use Commission may feel that they don't have any more information to really evaluate the proposal than they did the first time go around. So are we?
The guidelines are so different, and we should be adhering to the PD guidelines, and they would assess it with the PD guidelines.
So are you saying something new, Councilmember Kelly?
I'm not sure that folks understand. I mean, when the Land Use Commission feels it's important that we follow this they're not just randomly happen to all unanimously say that we should be following PD guidelines because they are more stringent. They are, and again, they support the concept. So, I mean, to suggest that it's just going to be the same is to completely act as if you've seen all the studies that they would require. Yes, we're asking Mr. Wallach to come back with the appropriate studies. And it might delay a couple months, but again, they canceled their meeting recently. I think this is a good time. If it's 2 months and we get it right, then let's do it that way.
Right. Well, I'm going to disagree on the number here. I mean, I think we're clearly hearing from staff that we're easily talking 3 months. So, are we ready to vote? So we have, or do we want to all crawl under the table?
One question with regard to if I wanted to ask that staff engage with SEPA to look at.
Councilmember Kelly, let's not confuse. I mean, that's adding yet a third element to consider here. We have before us two items. One is the ordinance that would approve the text amendment, amending the regulations for efficiency homes. And so that would make it, if we're having more than one efficiency home, it would be special use rather than a planned development. So that's the easier one. So are we ready to vote? So, yeah, can we have a roll call?
Absolutely. Councilmember Reed.
Aye.
Councilmember Harakaris.
Aye.
Councilmember Revelle.
Aye.
Councilmember Burns.
Aye.
Councilmember Wynn. Councilmember Kelly.
No.
Councilmember Nusma.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much.
Passes
We
6-1.
have now, yeah, so we've approved the text amendment, and that makes it now more than one efficiency home is now to be considered a special use rather than a planned development. And the second, obviously much more controversial, difficult one is approving a special use with zoning relief for an efficiency home development at 1915-17 Grant Street in the R3 two-family residential district. And this would be approving the proposal that we've heard about from Mr. Wallach.
So moved.
Did you have?
Yeah, the
question?
motion has been on the table, and I believe it was properly seconded. So
Right.
the vote has been conducted. It passes, and I'm ready to make a motion on item P3.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, I would like to amend that to direct staff to,
It's already passed.
Too late, we passed. Madam Chair, I will make a motion on item P3, which is
Wait,
ordinance.
we haven't voted on P2 yet.
We moved them
Sorry,
both
but I would
together.
I
like-
think both of them were moved at the same time. I could have sworn
Yeah.
that P1 and P2 were moved simultaneously.
We did.
so I trusted, Chair Revelle.
Yeah.
I trusted you said to please wait on that so we could do.
We still have
I
council
would
play.
like
There's
to.
more opportunity.
Wait. No, one person at a time. Councilmember Kelly.
Well, I would like to amend P2 to direct staff to come back with a proposal for, to negotiate, to engage with SEPA to look at two of these, to make a proposal for two of these to be land trust
Okay.
affordable use.
So Councilmember Kelly, Councilmember Nusma suggests that you bring that amendment to City Council. So
I'd like
because
to bring it
we need to
first.
wrap up P&D so we can get to City Council.
Okay, is there a?
But just point of information, did we move both or not?
We
did.
moved both together, and I forgot that we did that. So I thought we were just, when we voted, I thought we were just voting on
Councilman
it.
Kelly would have to be make a motion, but also would have to be acknowledged by the chair, especially since it's not on the agenda. So I just wanted to catch us up to where we are now.
Right.
Yeah.
And hopefully we
So
know how
I-
we want to move forward.
Yeah.
I think it'd be appropriate to move forward with the P&D agenda right now. Councilmember Kelly has a valid point, which she can make at council in just a few minutes.
Okay. All
So
right.
with Chair's permission, I'll make a motion on item
Fine.
P3.
Yep. Okay.
Which is Ordinance 24024, special use for a resale establishment, JBS Thrift at 1613 Orrington in the D3 Downtown Core Development District.
Is there any discussion or questions? Councilmember Kelly?
No comment. I support that. I'm sorry, I forgot to take my hand up. Apologies.
So your hand is up, but you don't, okay, great.
I think we're ready to.
Okay, so I think we're ready to vote. So this is a motion this is for introduction.
Correct.
Councilmember Reed.
Aye.
Councilmember Harakaris.
Aye.
Councilmember Revelle.
Aye.
Councilmember Burns.
Aye.
Councilmember Wynn. Councilmember Kelly.
Aye.
And Councilmember Nusma.
Aye.
Okay.
Unanimous.
Thank you very much, everyone. We will adjourn, starting City Council at 10 after 7.